I thought it might be interesting, or at least interesting for me anyway, because I'd have to think about this stuff, to sort of go over and think about my reasons. So I suppose it's like the reasons for my choices of the actual brands that I have here. I mean, I've got a lot of brands, but I've obviously got a lot of three particular brands: Tama, Pearl, and Craviotto. And I won't just do those three, but I thought it might be interesting just to really sort of think about and I suppose really go over my sort of journey with those brands, and kind of what really sort of inspired me to go with them, I suppose. So in no particular order, although I picked Pearl in this instance, but there's no particular order. But Pearl seemed to be a good place to start, to me, because in the last year I've bought a lot of Pearl drum kits. I think I bought about 5 drum kits actually. I want to say 5 Pearl drum kits. That's possibly not right, but it's certainly 3, because I can see 3, 4. Yeah, it's at least 4. I'm pretty sure I've forgotten some stuff that I bought, which is terrible, but I've bought at least 4 Pearl drum kits, including that one there. When I started looking at drums and thinking about buying drums in the mid-1980s, I really saw the choices of being either Premier or Pearl. Obviously, Pearl are Japanese, Premier are English, and it just really came down to those 2 brands, though. And as it goes, I did go with Premier. That was influenced greatly by the fact that a friend of mine who was in the British Royal Air Force actually got me my first kit, because it was going to be thrown in a skip, basically. And that was a Premier. And the RAF had a deal with Premier. So I was able to get the next 2 kits, which was basically the XPK and then the Janista in '95. I was able to get those at a reduced rate. I'm eternally grateful to my friend for helping me out in that respect, and I still have both of those kits. I don't have my original kit, and in fact I don't even think I have any real photos of it either. But then again, that was at a time when you don't have one of these knocking around, and you don't carry a phone, don't carry a camera around with you all the time. So, but I've seen a couple for sale recently, so I'll dig a photo out so you got maybe an idea of what my choices were at the time. But I went with Premier, but I never stopped looking at Pearl, and I think, as I've said in the video for the BLX, I remember seeing certainly the BLX and the MLX and actually the GLX, which is the Super Gripper, and I remember seeing all of those in the catalogue and just thinking they looked so cool. Certainly for me, and even now, if I look back at older drums from sort of pre-85 and then post-85, there definitely seemed to be a fundamental change in terms of just overall look and hardware on the drums, and something that came into play in sort of the mid 80s and sort of mid to later 80s was the high tension lug, the one-piece lug, and basically everyone was doing something along those lines at that point. And in fact, my Premier kit, my XPK, has those lugs on it. The BLX has those lugs on it. The Custom Z has those lugs on it. The Artstar 2 over in the corner there has long lugs on it. I think that's actually the only Tama kit that I've got with the lugs like that on it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But there was a definite shift, a definite change in sort of the visual side of things. But I never stopped looking at Pearl catalogues and collecting Pearl catalogues, and I've still got a bunch of them. I've just moved them over from where they were sat at my parents' house fairly recently, and I have a whole bunch of catalogues. which I had a lot of fun going through. And having a quick sort of sift through as I was packing them up and bringing them over here. But you know, the interest in Pearl kind of carried on from that sort of initial starting period in the mid 80s. And I mean, I've said before that I think the late 80s to about, say, between about 87 to about 95, I think is my favourite period of drum building, and that's definitely reflected in some of the kit choices that I have in here. Again, the BLX being a prime example, and then you've got the Star Classics when they came in, and then you've got the kit I've sat behind, you know, which is the Grand Star. I've got the Rock Star up there. I've got the Art Star. Yeah, but I really liked that period. And for Pearl, I actually the Masters kit that I've got, which I did a video on a few months ago, that is a later kit. I don't think I've tried to date it, but I think it's about 20 years old or so. So it was certainly between sort of 2000 and 2005. But that period of the Masters again meant something to me in terms of sort of nostalgia. I saw Steve White, a British drummer, Steve White, who most of you probably know. I saw him do a clinic for my local store, and at the time he was playing a green Masters kit. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And that was actually around 95, or certainly maybe 94, but I'm pretty sure it was 95. And I always liked the look of those drums and just the sound of those drums. And of course, typically, in response to that, I bought a Janista in about quite soon after, actually. But I never forgot those Masters drums, and for me the period of the sort of what are you going to say, the sort of rectangular badge. I never really cared for the badge choices on the subsequent Masters kits, but certainly the rectangular badge. I'm looking up there because there's a whole bunch of Pearl Toms up there with, I can see the badges. That was a period that really sort of interested me. So after that Masters kit, I've got two kits that came out in between that Masters kit and that one you see up there on the shelf, which is the Reference Pure, which I'll come to. But I've got in fact, this lot here, the Crystal Beat in two colours. I've got some of the yellow. I've got an 8 and 10 in yellow, and then the actual main part of the kit is in red. And I love those drums, even though I actually had, in fact, that blue kit next to it there. That's another acrylic kit, but that was in specific sizes. I kind of really was attracted to Pearl's decision to make the Crystal Beat in sort of more traditional sizes, particularly the Rack Tom, which is a 12 by 8. And then you've got the 10 by, I think that's a 10 by 7, and then an 8 by 7. But I really liked the decision on their part to make those sizes, and I enjoy playing that kit. It's different. It looks cool too. I still think the acrylic drums look cool. But that's, you know, when they reissued that, even though I actually had an existing acrylic kit, which I won't get rid of, it seemed like a logical thing to pursue. And then after that, the wood fiberglass kit, which again was like, I mean, the Crystal Beat was was a reintroduction of something that they did in the 70s. Acrylic drums, they did those in the 70s. The wood fiberglass concept, which is basically they're Kapur shells with a layer of fiberglass on the inside of the shell. And again, that's a concept that they were doing in the sort of 70s and 80s. And similarly, I love those drums as well. I use that as my main gigging kit for probably about 5 years, certainly 4 years, but I think maybe 5 years. And I mean, the only reason I don't play them so much now is I'm not in that band anymore. That band doesn't exist. So, but I used that particular kit as much as I did with my old band, simply because the guitar player really liked the way that the kick drum sounded, and he asked me to use that specific set of drums because he liked to hear them. And I thought, well, you know what, if you like hearing them that much, then who am I to say no? And again, I mean, like many, I don't know what it is with with my pearl kits. I think that one up there is actually the smallest pearl kit I've got. Well, yeah, arguably that and the Custom Z. Although I've got a matching snare for the Custom Z, where I haven't got one for that. So, but for some reason, and it wasn't by design by any means. But I think most of my pearl kits. If I've got 7 pearl kits, like 5 of them have got these sizes. It's either 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, or 10, 12, 13, 14, 16. I don't know why it's fallen that way, but it just has. So, and a kit I actually forgot to mention was the Session Elite, which was from about 91 or so, 91, 92, 93, somewhere around then. I haven't got around to trying to date them. I don't really care. I mean, I know when they came out. I remember seeing the catalogue, and I've talked about the sort of the importance in all of these choices. Really, for me, was seeing these things in the catalogue, and then 20 or 30 years later, finally being able to buy some. But the Session Elite as well, which is a kit that's coming up in 2022. That's another set of drums, and that followed on actually, I think, from just going back slightly, the Session Elite came out of the World Series, I think, from memory, and I had the chance to actually play on someone else's World Series kit about about just under 25 years ago. And all I remember from that experience was they sounded fantastic. And I know that they were the guys, Pride and Joy. Well, he told me that. But they were all. I don't really remember much from that gig other than those drums sounded great. And the only reason I haven't got a World Series kit, and it's not because they aren't coming up, that I've seen a couple recently for really good money. But I chose the Session Elite because they kind of were they were the later version of those drums, and it's just the way things worked out, really, I suppose. But going back to sort of more modern kits, the Reference Pure up there was a set I got in I think probably about June 2021, something like that. I'd seen the concept for that line. I think I'd seen it in a catalogue actually. And whilst I'm sure it's absolutely the Pearl isn't the only company that does this at all, they were the ones that I noticed doing that, and basically the concept is that the different sized drums have different combinations of wood in them, and it's designed for things like low end and attack. And body and things like that. So, and I can't remember exactly, but I think the floor tom is like mostly mahogany. Some of the more middle-sized toms are a sort of birch mahogany, and the smaller drums are birch. It's something like that anyway. I've put it in I know I've put it in another video somewhere, but that concept really kind of interested me. Not actually. I've also mentioned that that's satin rose gold, that finish, as in sort of very iPhone esque type colouring. I don't have one of those iPhones, but on a set of drums, that finish looked absolutely fantastic to me, and I really love the way those drums look, and I absolutely love the way the drums sound. They came with clear, I think it's clear Emperors on the top. They're actually sort of Pearl branded. I mean, they're Pearl Remo reference pure branded heads. But if I've got some Emperors, coated Emperors to hand here, I will probably put some coated Emperors on them, because I think they're going to sound fantastic with those heads on. I really do, with coated heads. But Pearl, as I said, I mean Pearl, and I mean I've reviewed a few Pearl kits over the years as well for MikeDalbeer.com, and I've always liked them. Pearl, when I started getting into bands, who hasn't played on a Pearl export in a rehearsal room? I think it's almost like a rite of passage, really. You either play, you either end up playing on a Pearl export of some year, you know, because they did change throughout the time they've been around, or you play on a Premier XP or Premier APK, not an XPK. Invariably it's a black APK. The two kits, those two kits always seem to end up in rehearsal studios for whatever reason, other than the fact that they're pretty solid and they're built like tanks, really, I suppose. But you know, Pearl, I've never had a problem with Pearl. I've never had any real issues with any of the drums, as I said, I've either bought or reviewed that were due to manufacturing. I've always liked the Pearl hardware as well. My first hi-hat stand, which I still have after 36 years, I think it is, I've still got outside. I don't use it very often. I think mainly because I think the centre rod disappeared. Well, it's here somewhere, but the centre rod disappeared, which is kind of the reason I stopped using it, I think. But I still have that. It still works perfectly fine. I've got some Pearl pedals, which I really like, and I remember some of the stuff I reviewed, the Pearl hardware that I reviewed many years ago. You could hang off of it, really. It was so solid. It was really good, you know. And the one thing that comes to mind, I mean, I'm not even talking about the Pearl snare drums. I mean, I've got like literally 10 Pearl snare drums just sat. I mean, this whole row is just Pearl snare drums. And I mean, that is like the Tico Torres aluminium, 3mm aluminium, which is an absolutely fantastic drum. And if you ever want one recommendation from me for a good budget drum, and not budget, but like a good drum that's within a budget, you know, the Tico Torres snare is absolutely it. I think 3mm aluminium. As I said, it's free. I'll just get it down. Why not? You know, I mean, there's nothing not to like about this drum, as far as I'm concerned. But there you go. It's 14 by 6.5, so you've got a good deep size there. Die-cast hoops. You've got the double-ended strainer system now. It's a free floating shell, so you get a nice ring to it. You know what? It's I mean, this drum is just fantastic. It really is. It just I love the sound of aluminium, and this is absolutely one of my favourite drums. But you know, all these are in fact half of these are free floaters. I got 4 free floaters, 6 free floaters on this row. This is like I think this is like the DLX metal snare drum, basically. The Custom Z, and the other aluminium which I've got, which is the another one of my absolute favourite drums, is that one. And I forget the model number. There's one or two of them actually up for sale in the UK at the moment, albeit I think they're slightly priced more aggressively. I paid £200 for this. In fact, actually, I paid 180 for it and 20 quid shipping. But I love that drum. I really do. I think that was the drum that really set me off into loving aluminium. But that's a late 80s drum, and it's just fantastic. And Pearl, aside from the free floating design, which I think is pretty cool, it's evolved over the years. I've got different sort of versions and generations of the free floating design, but you know what? It's just I've always liked the company. I think actually one thing I've got to just mention again. And I know I've mentioned it several times in many videos, but the Custom Z. The Custom Z was a kit that myself and I know many of my friends and many people now even still, 34, 35 years later after they came out, still hold in such high regard. And the Custom Z was a kit that I wanted for in fact, actually pretty much since I first saw one. I saw one in person in a drum shop in London, along with several of my friends now. Strangely enough, we all saw the same kit very independently of each other. But I always wanted a set of the Custom Z drums. They were some of the absolute highest drums that you could buy in the late 80s and early 90s. They only ran for about 4 years, from 87 to 91. As far as I'm concerned, the only Custom Z finish is the Champagne Bird's Eye Maple, which is basically that. That's their. They did do other finishes. I mean, they did this finish. They did this finish to begin with, and then they introduced a few sort of different colours. I think there was a dark sort of midnight quartz or something. I don't know. It was a dark finish. But you know what? I absolutely refuse to acknowledge the existence of any colouring or finish other than the Bird's Eye Maple, because they were just absolutely. They were just absolutely fantastic looking drums. The kit I saw in person, I was trying to work out last night how many pieces it was, but I remember it was a double bass kick, double floor toms, 2 flown bass drums up here, and I think probably 3 or 4 across the front as well, and the matching snare drum. And that left a lasting impression on me, and I think that's one of the other reasons why I just pursued Pearl, for as long as I have. And as I said, I've never had a problem with sort of manufacturing defects or anything like that. I remember looking at I remember I did a review for MikeDolbear.com many years ago when the Firecracker came out, which is, if you're not familiar, the Firecracker, it's a lower end snare drum. It's available in steel and a wood, a basswood of some sort. But I noted on the steel one, which I subsequently bought one of, the I think it was the 12x5 I bought, that the finish on the inside of the drum was better than some of the other manufacturers outside. So it was something I noted at the time. It's something I still think is true now. I don't know. It's just, Pearl for me was there when I first started becoming interested in drums, and I'm really thrilled that it's a part of sort of my sort of playing and everything now as well. I've got some really great catalogue kits, which are like the BLX, the Sequoia Red BLX, and the Custom Z, things that I saw in the catalogue, and then, you know, took me 30 years, but I finally got a set of them, and the Masters as well. You know, I'm only ever going to speak fondly about all of those things, and I'm just sort of sitting here looking around, and it's just, you know, I feel very lucky, but at the same time, you know, I'm very happy to take these things out and play them. So, but anyway, I think that probably covers it. I probably came up with a few things I hadn't even thought about myself, but you know. Anyway, hope that was interesting. See you next time.